Hi, this is Jacob Murad from KPA Lawyers. Today I'm going to talk about alternative dispute resolution, or just dispute resolution in general as it relates to the law. So a lot of people think when they have a problem, a legal issue, that you should just sue. I'm going to sue this guy. I'm going to sue this person. There's more than one way to pursue a dispute. So I'm going to walk through some of them and why you would pick one versus the other. And again, this is assuming that you've tried to negotiate a settlement and it just hasn't worked out. So there's mediation, there's arbitration, and then there's the actual lawsuit itself. So we'll start with mediation. What is mediation? So basically mediation is when two parties get into a room and there's a third party mediator that is licensed typically, but they don't necessarily have to be. But they stand in the room and they try to mediate a negotiation between the two. So they don't actually have any power per se. They can't, for example, say, okay, I rule this, that you're right and you're wrong. Instead, what they do is they hear one side's position and they hear the other side's position and they try to broker a deal between the two. The reason why it's good is because it's basically like a negotiation, but when two parties no longer trust each other, at least you have a third party there that both sides respect and can try to broker the deal, can explain the other side's position, what's most likely to happen, what's not likely to happen, and you could be really, really flexible in terms of what your resolution is going to be. It doesn't have to be one side wins, one side doesn't. So mediation is such a useful tool that in some regions, in the province of Ontario, they actually mandate mediation at a particular time if you were to sue somebody. It's also pretty relatively low cost and it's confidential. So these are some of the benefits. The downside is it doesn't always work. The mediator, because they don't have any actual decision-making powers, at the end of the day, if one person says, you owe me this money, and the other person says, I don't owe you anything, and they don't trust each other, there's only so much a mediator can do. If you want an example of a mediator, by the way, the opening sequence of Wedding Crashers, they're mediators. And you watch them mediate between a divorce proceeding. The second dispute resolution is called arbitration. So arbitration is it's also private, much like mediation, but this time you're choosing a third party that acts as an arbiter, a judge, someone who actually makes a ruling at the end. Both sides present their case and they make a ruling. Now, arbitration is great. Again, it's confidential, so both sides' allegations are not public. It's generally not as pricey as some of the other areas. And most importantly, if you can't reach a negotiation, if you can't reach a settlement, the arbitrator will make a ruling themselves. What's also important is you can choose an arbitrator that has an expert in your particular field. So if you're worried about, let's say it's construction, for example, and you're having an argument about a construction job, having an arbitrator that maybe knows a little bit more about construction and construction law cases will be more helpful to you. That's why arbitration is very helpful. The downside, however, is whatever this person rules, it's one person, and whatever he rules, it's very, very difficult to appeal this judgment. It's over. So if he doesn't like your face, not to say that this is what arbitrators do, but if he doesn't like your face and rules against you, that's it, you're done. The right of appeal it's extremely difficult. It's already difficult in other areas, but it's become very rare in the actual arbitration context. However, if you're a business owner, I can't recommend it highly enough. And their authority has to come from a contract. It has to come from both sides agreeing or some sort of contract. Otherwise, a person does not have any authority. So that's very important. But it's also less costly and ideally more quick than the lawsuit, the actual proceeding through an action or an application. This is where you sue somebody. So if you can't mediate and if you can't decide collectively that you're going to choose an arbitrator, you go through the actual lawsuit. Lawsuit has a lot of disadvantages. It takes years. The judges that are hearing your case may not know anything about your particular area. We once had a particular shareholder business dispute that was complex, that was heard by a criminal law judge. Now, the criminal law judge, he was very intelligent, but he admitted that this is not his area of expertise and hoped we would go to arbitration, which we eventually did. But the point I'm trying to make is you might end up with a judge that is just unfamiliar with this particular area that you're fighting about. It takes a long time and it's extremely expensive. And you might find that by the end, the only people that win are the lawyers that are billing or whatever experts are there. Also, it's extremely public. So if you make a whole bunch of allegations or allegations are made against you, those are on public record. Whether or not they're proven right or wrong, they're public. So that's also a problem. What's good about it though is there are, it's a lot more of a hammer in terms of what you can sue for. You can also delay things a little bit. If, for example, you wanted to settle, if you want to settle but you don't have the money, but you want to sue, but you're not sure, and so forth, it creates a different type of leverage within a negotiation to start a lawsuit versus not. Also, there are certain things that you have to sue for, you can't necessarily go to arbitration for. So that's why you would want to start a lawsuit. However, most of the time, I would recommend you don't start a lawsuit. To the extent that you can do arbitration or negotiate a settlement, go do one of those routes. If you can't, if the only way to go is to sue somebody, only if it's a last resort and you're ready to take on the cost and the stress and the responsibility of it, that's when you start a lawsuit. If you're having trouble knowing the difference and you want to talk about it, feel free to give us a call. Now, if you like these videos, again, click subscribe. Take care.